What is going on, everybody? Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask StreamYard. This is where we actually take questions that you ask us and we dive deeper. We answer the question and we take a deep dive. We do a little miniature training, which is what we've got for you guys today. Oh my goodness. Got to say hello to everybody. Excellent dude is here. Hello. We've got Sherry from Mount Morris, Michigan. Hello. Rio 197 from Montreal. And of course, Stuart's here from Scotland. What's up, Stuart, my friend? How are you? He's watching over on LinkedIn. We are multi-streaming using, of course, our lovely platform, StreamYard. And that allows us to go live in multiple places at the same time, which is super awesome. One of my favorite features of StreamYard. Now, some of you may be new to us here at StreamYard. If you are, say this is your first time catching us live. And if you are new, you're probably new to me as well. My name is Melanie Dyann Howe, and I am a huge ambassador of StreamYard. I love this software, this platform, and how it lets us create amazing live videos, live shows, where we can basically be awesome at live video with just a few clicks of the mouse, which is, I literally always say, this little thing right here is like the best tool ever. People think that we're doing all these fancy things, but I'm just clicking the mouse, saying hello to Teresa from Albany, New York. So good morning. Hello. Okay, good morning. I've done 18 live streams with StreamYard now. Good stuff, Ed. Yeah, Ed, you are on your way, my friend. That is actually really, really exciting. So super, super fun. So Quackers, that's a new one. That's a new one. We've got our StreamYard duck, of course. We call him Puddles. That's the duck's name, of course, in our logo. So you guys, here's what we're going to do today. So here's what this show's about. So if you have questions, by the way, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are part of our Facebook community. So StreamYard, one of the things I love as well about this platform is that there's a Facebook community that is awesome. Okay. It's full of amazing people. There are people that have never gone live before, and there are people that are creating really complex, really fancy schmancy streams, and everybody's there supporting each other and helping each other. And so what tends to happen is we get these questions that get posted, and what we've decided to do is take a question each week and showcase it on this particular show, which we're calling Ask StreamYard. So last week, my friend Kevin did it. Week before that, I did it. Next week, you have Kevin again, and we've got some questions lined up. Now, I will tell you, today's question is about having guests in your streams. But what I wanted to say before we get going today is, all you have to do if you have a question and you want us to potentially look at featuring your question, sending you a free t-shirt, a free mug, whatever you want, all you have to do is go into the group here and post your question, but use the hashtag ask StreamYard, in your post, and we will find that. And if we feel like it's something that fits the show, then we're going to take a deep dive on your question, answer your question, as well as, of course, take a deep dive, as I mentioned. So first step is make sure that you go over into our Facebook community. So make sure you're part of that community and definitely come join us and be a part of it. So we can definitely feature you in a show if we feel like it's a great one. Today is a really good one. It's about guests and all the things. I'm looking at the comments. This is fantastic. Ronald's doing a weekly broadcast. Yes, I always say, if you can, try to go live every week. You will find great results from that for sure. So Lawrence from New Jersey, Sylvia over in Italy, hello. Good morning to James, you too as well. Of course, this is going to be fantastic. So, all right, what we're going to talk about today is we are going to answer the question about inviting guests. Now, again, this is this week's question. So Carl posted in our group. He says, hold on, let me get this comment off here. He says, got a question for anybody to answer. Instead of a guest joining through an email link, can you send them the link to enter your show through a text message so they can participate through their cell phone? So we really liked this question because, one, here's the deal. The short answer is yes. You can send them a link via text message and they can join their phone that way. But this kind of opened up a little bit of a can of worms. I was like, ooh, I want this question for my show, for my segment of Ask StreamYard, because I just thought, hey, there's actually a number of ways that you can invite your guests to your show. But while we're talking about that, why don't we talk about some best practices so that whole process for not only you, but also your guest is a good, positive experience. Because what you want to leave your guests, they're providing their time to be with you, to be a part of your show. You want to give them a good experience, right? But at the same time, you just want to create a good experience for yourself, because that's also going to come through in your show for your audience. So if you're a little bit clunky, disorganized, or maybe you're not going through the process in the most efficient or best practice way, your guest might be a little bit anxious before they come on your show, or it could create some awkwardness between you and your guests. And so I said, hey, the quick answer to that is yes, but let's take a deeper dive and let's talk about the best way to invite your guest to your stream, but also some best practices so that you can have a wonderful guest experience. Now, before I go there, I also want to point out that having guests in your shows is a super smart strategy for a few reasons, okay? One, when you have other people in your shows, you're adding a variety for your audience. If you're in your content all the time and it's just you, great, but hey, no offense at all here, but maybe add a little variety. Take yourself out of the limelight a few times. Don't let people get sick of you, right? I love bringing guests into my own content, either subject matter experts who can take a deeper dive into something that maybe I can't, people that know about things that I don't know about, people that can share stuff with my audience that my audience is going to care about. You can interview industry experts. You can interview customers. You can interview clients. You can have fun interviews. You can have a blast. There are some people that have game shows, and so they bring guests in, and that's how they do their game shows. So there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate other people in your stream. But what I really like about it is, again, you're adding variety for your audience and to your show. But here's the kicker. If you're in business, or you're trying to grow your audience, or you're trying to expand things, when you start bringing guests into your show, you're going to find that you're going to see some organic reach. And we all love organic reach, right? Like, that's what we love. So organic reach is going to help us expand into other audiences, but also have more people see our content. Now, why does this happen? This happens because your guest is probably going to share your stream with their audience as well, because, hey, they're in your show, right? So now you're going to be reaching their audience. But the other thing that happens is when people are in their feed, their news feed, and they see your live broadcast, maybe they're used to seeing you in your show all the time. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, wait a second. Mel has somebody else on her show. What's this about? It kind of calls attention to what's going on. And when you have other people in your stream, it just grabs their attention and it does what we call, it stops the scroll, right? And that's ultimately what we want to do. So having guests in your show is really smart from a strategy standpoint, both for organic reach, but also you're adding an extra level of interest and variety to your show. So I wanted to talk about that because some of you may be saying, well, I'm not really sure if I need guests or should have guests. You should totally be considering having guests, whether it be for fun or actually, like I said, offering some additional value to your audience, maybe bringing somebody on that can teach something that maybe is not a subject that you are an expert in. So there you go. I wanted to kind of preface before we got started with a little bit of that. Let me check on you guys really quick in the comments. I wanted to see what we got going on here. Dana Bentz is in the house. What's going on, right? So wanted to say hello to Dana. She is here watching with us as well. Obviously, you guys know Dana. She's got her own shows here with StreamYard and part of the marketing team. So, okay. Looks like you guys are ready to dive in. Now, I will say this. If you have questions about the stuff I'm going to talk about, I'm going to kind of do like a little miniature training, if you will. But if you guys have questions, feel free to post those questions in the comments. If anything I'm saying resonates with you, if you have additional feedback, maybe other users will also find valuable, then feel free to share that in the comments. I love it when you guys are hanging out with me in the comments. I know you're here. It means I know that you're focused on what we're talking about, right? Okay, let's dive in. The first thing I wanted to kind of talk about was setting yourself up for success. So again, if you are just joining us, what we're doing is this is our Ask StreamYard show where we take a question posted in our community when they use the hashtag Ask StreamYard, and we are taking a deep dive in it. So the question for this week was posted by Carl. Now, Carl wanted to know if we could send a link via text message to our guest so that they can join on their cell phone. And here's the deal. The short answer is yes, you absolutely can, but I wanted to take this a little bit further. So we're going to talk about ways to set yourself up for success when you are going to be having guests on your show. But also, I am going to do some demonstrations for you so that you know exactly how to do this and what to do and how to do it appropriately, right? And we're going to talk about some best practices as well that you can share with your guests so that you have a very good interview experience, whether it be one person on your stream or multiple people on your stream. So let's dive in. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is when I say setting yourself up for success, right? What I'm saying is create a system. So I really want you to consider creating a system so that your process is repeatable. Because if you think about it, especially as I said, you should be having guests on your show. I highly recommend it, but not just once every few, months or something. Do it as often as you can. So you may even consider having an additional show. So maybe you have your normal show, but then you have an additional show that you do extra where you always are having guests on your stream. So the way to do this and to have this actually not create a lot of headaches for you is to set up a system. And so what do I mean by set up a system? I really mean processes, right? But also maybe look into some other aspects, some other software that's going to help you actually make this easier for yourself. So the thing I want to say is I want you to consider sending your guest a way. So here's a couple ways that this is going to happen. You're going to say, hey, I want you to be on my show. How about next Tuesday? There's that method, right? But wouldn't it be great if you could plan ahead so that not only you have some time to work with your guest on their content, maybe preparing some materials or whatever it might be, or at the same time, your guest may have a reason why they want to do their appearance with you for a strategic reason. Maybe they've got something going on that they're trying to promote as well, right? So sometimes we want to give our guest an option to pick the date. And one of the best ways for you to do this is to set up a scheduling application like Calendly, Acuity scheduling, and then another one is Harmonizely. Why is that one so hard for me to say? I want you all to say Harmonizely 3 times really fast. Go. Try it. It's a tongue twister. That one's a tricky one. So using a scheduling app is going to help you actually make this process simpler. So what I wanted to show you is, let me just show you really quick what this looks like. Let me share my screen. So I'm going to show you mine. So I'm sharing Calendly. I use the application Calendly. I love it. There is a free version. It allows you could totally just use the free version to set this up. The paid version has some additional tools that you can add some additional sophistications to it. So when I want to have somebody on my show, I basically have created this event, right? So I've created an event in my scheduling app that only allows somebody to schedule during the times which my live stream happens, which happens to be Tuesdays at 2:00 Eastern time. And in here, you can see that I've got some details about my show so that they understand what they're doing. And of course, I always like to let them know we're using StreamYard, because if they have used StreamYard before, they're going to say, oh, sweet, I've been a guest on StreamYard before. It's going to be fantastic because StreamYard is amazing and awesome. That's usually what they say. If they've not used StreamYard before, then they will say, okay, well, what's StreamYard? And then I know, okay, I need to do a little bit of prep work for them so that they can actually understand what's going on here. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But all they have to do is they can pick whatever date they want. They can go in advance and go all the way out to July where I've got it set up. They can pick their day and say, ooh, July 6th is perfect. 2:00, confirm. Now, what's going to happen next, and this is the next tip that I wanted to say, is that you want to gather information from your guest. So gathering information from your guest is going to help you be more set up so that you're not pulling this information together at the last minute. And so you're going to obviously want to get their name. I highly suggest you get their email. They need to provide their email. Hold on one second. I'm probably going to have to mute my mic and cough a few times because I got this crazy allergy thing going on. Excuse me. Hold on. But the show must go on, right? Okay, we got this. We're going to get through this. Got that tickle going on. I got my tea. I'm good. So you're going to get their name and their email. And then I always say, hey, provide a little short bio, then give me some information about what you're going to talk about. And then give me any links that you want me to share either ahead of time or during the stream. And that, that is how you're going to get details from them ahead of time. Because a lot of times people will send this last minute. You don't want to be dealing with anything last minute. So you want to get that stuff early. Okay, we're going to get through this. Okay, I'm back. So the other thing is you might want to also have them send you a link to a headshot. Now, why would you want to get this ahead of time? So that you can design a graphic that has them in the graphic, because when you're going to schedule your stream in advance, putting people in that graphic, that thumbnail, actually is going to call more attention. Anytime you can put an image of a person in your thumbnail when you're scheduling a stream, personally, I find that the reach is so much better. So get a an image from them ahead of time so that you can design the graphic ahead of time when you schedule your stream, which we're going to get to in just a second. Okay, let me take another sip of my tea. Oh my gosh, allergies are kicking me right now. They're kicking me, man. Okay, let me check in on you guys really fast. All right, so here's the deal. This application that I'm using is called Calendly, okay? It's called Calendly. There are others out there. They're scheduling applications. So you definitely want to look into this. There are free ones. Some of them are paid. I just wanted to show you what I was talking about so that you could see it in action. Now, once that person schedules the event, here's the coolest part. It's actually going to put it on my calendar, and it's going to send them an ability to put it on their calendar automatically. As I like to say, automagically, because it's so cool. I literally just send them this link. I say, hey, here's a scheduling link to go book, pick the day that works for you to be on my show. And then they provide all that fun information in there. Literally, I just send them a link and then they book it when they want to do it. It puts it on both of our calendars. And here's the best part. I open up that calendar. I open up that event in my calendar. And it's got all those details that they filled out in those forms. So that is literally me just sending a link and then boom, I have all this information. I'm not sitting there going back and forth. Hey, you forgot to send me your bio, or hey, this is also going to ensure that your guest is ready to show up for real. So, you want them to have their bio, you want them to have some information, and you want to be able to get that. Now, as I said, create a system. I'm not dealing with this. I am sending them a link. I do the work ahead of time to set up the system, and then I send them the information, and then they're doing the work, and then I'm getting it. It's all organized together. So it's good to use a little bit of your time up front if you're going to be having guests on your streams to create this process for yourself. Now, there's a number of ways you can do it. If you want to get scrappy, as I always like to say, scrappy, not crappy, and you don't want to use a scheduling app, and you're like, well, I only need this every once in a while. Then create a Google form. There's other ways you can create a form to gather the same information. This is going to do two things. Again, it's going to make it easier for you to keep track of the information. It's also showing your guests that you are for real. Like, you are one to be considered. Like, you are, look at this. Like, they've got this form for me to fill out. It makes them feel like they're coming into a presence that's going to be like legit, right? And so you're legitimizing that you are taking your show seriously, and therefore they should as well, right? So I do find that it helps when we can set these things up this way. So I wanted to talk about that for sure. So yes, you guys are digging it. Some of you are definitely Calendly users. Fantastic. So Stephen, I'm glad that you are finding these cool. Chris, yeah, that is super fun for an easy way for you guys to set this stuff up. So, okay, my goodness. Okay, what's the address for getting the calendar? Okay, so that link was Calendly. Again, you can use Harmonizely. I can't say it. And Acuity Scheduling. So, okay, let's keep moving. Let me jump in here. Now let me recap really fast. The information that you want to gather from them, you always want to get, obviously, their name, and this is something else that you might want to consider. Depending on the type of people you're interacting with and working with, you may want to add a field to your info gathering that says, please spell your name phonetically, so that you make sure you pronounce their name correctly, right? Because now I highly suggest you have a pre-meeting with them where you're going to be able to clarify this, but it may be a good idea for you to also say, hey, here, provide your name. Now, please provide your name phonetically. Because, hey, some people have, heck, poor Gage used to say my name, Melanie, in the comments all the time, right? I think he's got it correct now. But when I used to be commenting before I became a StreamYard partner, he was always saying Melanie, so even some simple names sometimes need a little bit of extra help for the phonetic aspect of it, because you want to make sure you say your guest name correctly. So, and definitely get their social media links or any links that they want to be sharing that you can be prepared for in advance. Now, here's something else I wanted to provide. Now, again, this is about creating a system. So one thing that I like to do as well is I record a short video, and I just have recorded this video. It's an unlisted YouTube video. And I basically say, I'm really excited that you're going to be a guest on my live show. I wanted to share a little bit of information about what my show is all about, as well as my audience, so that you can come prepared and you'll have a good grasp about what we're going to, how we're going to be treating our audience. So I let them know about the format of the show. I say, I start off with a countdown. I do this. Then I'm going to probably introduce you and I'll talk about a few things. And then I will bring you on stage. And then at that point, you and I will have a conversation. If you have slides, please feel free to share them, et cetera, et cetera. And then I talk about my audience and I say, my audience, they're anywhere from beginners to advanced people. Here's what they have in common, yada, yada, yada. So you know your audience. Don't expect your guests to do the research. They may do their research. They may ask you questions, but you want to make sure that you provide information to your guest about your audience so that they show up. If your audience is a ton of beginners and they come blazing in with all this crazy advanced stuff, your audience is going to get lost, and that's on you, my friend. That is on you. So make sure that you do prepare your guests with some information, but I like to do this in a short video. Now, you could totally write this all out and say, hey, here's a PDF I created for you so that you have some ideas and some expectations. For me personally, I just record a short video, and then I let them watch it on their own time. I know I feel very good about that because here's the deal. I record the video once, right? And then I just send it to them. I just send them the video. I'm not having that conversation with them, but they have watched it on their own time. And then when we have our pre-show meeting, they can ask me for clarity if they need to when we're in that meeting. And it just shortens the time that I have to spend. Again, it's creating a system. So I wanted to provide that as an idea for you as well, because I really do think that it makes a big difference on how you're doing this stuff. So definitely, do that. Make sure that you have that going for you when it comes to creating your system. So definitely your system is going to be all about, scheduling. So use a scheduling app to book your guests, right? Gather your information ahead of time as much as you can. Prep your guests with expectations for sure. And you can do this by creating that video that I mentioned for how you would do that. We've got a little inception going on here. I made these slides right before and didn't take into account the background is the same. So whoopsies on my part, but that's okay. That's how it works sometimes. So yeah, this is funny. Dimeback Darren says, I say, hey, here's the link. Come on up. There are definitely ways that you can do it. There are definitely ways that you can make this easier for you and your guests. But this is all about creating a system. And I wanted to kind of share that with you guys about, setting yourself up for success. So, okay, what are we going to talk about next? First of all, So Yolanda says video is engaging. First of all, I will tell you this. When I create a video like that and I send it to my future guest, again, it goes back to, oh, interesting. This person's legit. She's got her stuff together. And it literally creates a good feeling inside of them that they're going to be dedicating their time. They're volunteering their time for me and my audience. And they know that I'm serious. Like I'm committed to this show. And it shows them that. And again, they're going to come in and they're going to feel really proud about being in your show because you have your stuff together. But at the same time, they're probably going to show up with a little bit more spark because, hey, they don't want to let you down either because look at you. You're all prepared and you're ready to go. So what's up, Rio? Oh, we got Javi from the Philippines. Fantastic. Welcome for joining us. Who's that talking? That's me. Hi, I'm Mel. My name is Melanie Dyann Howe, and I am here to help with your questions. This is a weekly show that we're doing, just as a recap, where we actually are taking questions from the community. So make sure you're part of our Facebook group, right? And we are featuring the question today, which the question today is actually from, let me pull it up again. It's from Carl. Oops. So Carl came on and he said, hey, can you send your guest a link through text message so they can participate on their cell phone? And so we are featuring this question, but hey, the short answer to that is yes, you absolutely can text them a link. Now we're going to talk about ways that you can bring your guests on screen here in a sec, but we wanted to answer that question. The short answer is yes, but while we're talking about it, don't just send them a text and say, hey, here's a link, come on up, come join. I wanted to talk about some things you might want to consider so that you can have a really good guest experience. And so that's what we're talking about right now. So again, this is our Ask StreamYard show that we're going to be doing each week on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Next week, make sure you tune in because my friend Kevin will be back for answering next week's question. So let's talk about these ways that you can invite a guest. Yeah, you can text message your guest and send them the link and they can join on their phone. But here's the thing I will say. There's a few things I want you to do. I want you, before you send them the link, I want you to ask them, how are you going to be joining my live show? Are you planning to use a computer with a webcam? Are you going to be joining on a tablet, on a phone? What are the ways that we do that? How are we doing that? So the reason why this question is important is that if you text them the link, we're going to talk about the link here in just a sec. If you text them the link and they're planning to join on a computer and they're on a PC, this happens to me all the time. I get the link texted to me and I'm like, all right, copy that link. And then I literally go and I either email it to myself or I literally send it to myself on Facebook Messenger because I can't get that link via text on my computer. I have to send it to myself. So if people were to say, hey, are you going to be joining from a computer or from your phone? I would say computer. They are likely to send it to me in a more friendly way so that I'm not having to send the link to myself, right? So that's really important. Okay, now let's keep going. As I take a sip of tea out of my lovely StreamYard mug. Because as I said earlier, my allergies are kicking me right now, right? They're going crazy. Okay, so here's the deal. I want to show you guys how you get the link first. And then we're going to talk about some different ways that you can actually share the link. Because, I mean, that's pretty important, right? Like, how do we even get the link in the first place? So let me just show you something. Now, what is really great about StreamYard is that, Ryder says, if someone texts me a link, I can open it on my Mac with no issues. Right. It's fantastic. You're on a Mac, right? And so it's different. Us PC people, dang it. We can't pull that in. Now, I know there are apps out there. I think there are apps out there where you can pull it in and you can pull it up and, all that stuff pulls it in there. But again, don't make your guests go download some app just so they can get it, right? Okay, yeah, Yolanda says, it might seem like lots of work, but now I send them the link via text and email. Right, exactly. Just do it both ways, then they can decide how they can have that. Now, we're going to talk about some best practices here in a second and some other ways that we're going to be thinking about it. So, okay. Now, first, I want to show you about getting the link. So I have StreamYard open right now. Now, what's really great about StreamYard is you can actually, so I highly recommend that you schedule your broadcast in advance. There's a number of reasons why this is a best practice. People are going to be able to, click on get notified so that they'll get a notification in their application when you're live. They'll know what you're going to be talking about ahead of time. So then when you actually are live, they'll be like, oh yeah, they're going to be talking about guest experiences on the show this week. I definitely wanted to tune in on that. So you're kind of like hitting them more than once. And that's really important. It also is just good practice because it allows people to see a thumbnail beforehand, read the description, all those things. It gives them an opportunity. They may even decide to put it in their calendar so that they don't miss your show. Meaning literally like, oh, there's an Ask StreamYard show at 11 o'clock about inviting guests. I want to learn about that. And they put it in their calendar and that way they're available to watch your show. But if you're just going live randomly or just going live at the time and you're not pre-scheduling it, people may miss it. That's definitely something that happens. So you can create a broadcast in StreamYard and schedule it. As you can see here, I've got a couple of shows scheduled already. You can create a broadcast and not actually schedule it and still get a link. Did you know that? So the reason why I'm saying this is because I want you to be able to get the link ahead of time and provide it to your guest ahead of time. At least, again, we're talking about planning and preparing so that you're not doing stuff at the last minute. You can also use StreamYard to have your pre-show meeting like even a week in advance. And if you missed Kevin's show about using StreamYard for meetings, make sure you go back and watch last week's episode of Ask StreamYard because he talked about how StreamYard can totally be your meeting software as well. So make sure you check that out because that was a really great show. And I mean, it's seriously super, super great. So, okay, let's get back to this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a broadcast. I'm just going to pick a blank little, fun little thing here. And you can notice here where it says schedule for later, you can 100% go ahead and schedule your stream for later if you want, if you're ready. But if you don't want to do that for whatever reason, or you're not 100% sure of the time or something else, you don't have to do that. You can actually still create your broadcast and put your information in. Just go create broadcast. And when you do that, it's going to actually open up the studio. It's going to ask you to enter the studio. And then I'm in my incognito. So that's what we're doing here. But you're going to notice that It's going to ask you to join. And then down here at the bottom, you have your invite information. This is where you get the link to send to your guest. So this is when we're talking about links, texting links, emailing links, whatever. We're talking about all that stuff. Literally, this is the link we're talking about, okay? This is important. It is not the link up here. I noticed that there's been times when people say, it'll say view on Facebook up here, and they'll try to find that link, and that's the one they send. That is not the link you want. You want to get the invite link for your guest. Okay, now, let me back out of here because I want to show you something. Notice here, I just backed out of the studio. I'm not ready to go live, right? Not ready to go live. So here we are. It says test. That's the one I just created. I can go live whenever I want because it's not scheduled. I mean, I don't have to. If I go right here, invite guest, boom, same information. So you don't have to be in the studio to get the actual link. So all you have to do is create a broadcast, and then guess what? Did you know that you can actually schedule it later? You could create this broadcast like a month in advance if you really wanted to, get the link, right? And then you can decide when you're going to schedule it, and you can schedule it later. You can actually add the schedule, meaning schedule the post later. So that's super, super great. But I wanted to point that out because I think there's this misconception that, I can't get the link until I'm ready to go live or until I'm officially scheduled or whatnot. That's actually not true. You can totally do some prep work ahead of time. Again, we're all about preparing and being done with this as early as possible. So you're going to pull this link right here, invite guests. That's what we want. Now you're going to notice here that you have some obvious easy buttons here. You could totally use these or just copy the link yourself and pull it in to whatever way you want to send the update to them. So let's talk about that right now. Let's talk about ways that you can actually send the link to your audience. Let me see. Square Table Degenerates Podcast says, am I the only one that just drops the link in the chat of the stream? LOL. That's actually an interesting concept, and I want to point that out. There are some people do what they call live call-in shows. So if you are one of those people that you want to actually give your guests an opportunity to join you live, which, I mean, it's funny, I've talked to Christian about this before. I'm like, that terrifies me because you never know who's going to come into your backstage. But this is actually what they do on the live stream reviews on Saturdays. So on the StreamYard channel, they put the link in the comments of the stream, and then they let the audience join. They let them come in, and as long as their camera's turned on and they post their question in the private chat, that's another way you can do this. That is absolutely a way to make this happen. So let me take care of, we got a bad user in here. I'm going to just block him. He's out. Peace out. Peace out. Another great feature of StreamYard is you can put YouTube users in timeout and you can block them. And I just did that. I feel powerful right now. I feel powerful. We don't want anybody distracting us, right? Okay, yes. So basically, Christian is saying, yes, that's exactly what we do on live stream reviews. So if you want to see that in action, tune in on Saturdays when they do the live stream reviews. They literally put the link in the comments and let people join live. Now, there are some things to consider when you're going to do that. Definitely don't just do that on a whim. You want to be a little bit prepared and think about that for sure. So, okay, let's check this out. I wanted to talk about the different ways and why you might want to use the different methods when it comes to scheduling your lives. Again, I do think that it's really good for you to ask your guest how they're planning to join. Are they going to be joining on their phone? Are they going to be joining on a tablet? Are they going to be joining from a computer? So as Yolanda said earlier, she sends the link in multiple ways. That's also, I think, super smart. I remember how we talked about that scheduling application earlier. One of the tips that I shared about setting yourself up for success was to use a scheduling application and let your guest pick the day that they're going to come live on your show. If you do that, it's going to create a calendar invite and put it in your calendar and their calendar. You can then, once you get your link from StreamYard, as I just showed you, you can then go in and update that calendar invitation. And where it says location, you can put the link in there. And it's in their calendar. Here's the thing. Most people use their calendar here and here on their computer. And it's right there. It's in their schedule. It's on their calendar. It's booked. There's no question about what time you're going live. Can't screw that up because it's in the calendar. And then right there where that information is, and also where you have the information that they provided to you, meaning their bio and the other stuff, now you can update that and put the link in there. So it's all in one place, which is ideal. So in the sophisticated world, I would like you to try to use a calendar application as well as scheduling that live stream interview and put the link in there, of course. So that is definitely, in my opinion, your best practice when it comes to how you might want to provide that. So let's talk about some of the other ways that you can actually, show people or get people into, get them the link for your stream. So other ways are, we talked about emailing already. So you can email them. Again, I like emailing because most people are able to access email from their phone. A lot of people have their emails hooked up, synced up with their phone. And then, of course, most people have their emails accessible to them on their computer. So email is definitely an easy, quick way. Now, easy, quick, Facebook Messenger. And you saw where StreamYard actually, one of the options for how you actually share the link with people is to grab that, just click on that button and it's going to open up Facebook Messenger for you. Now, there's other messaging apps out there, of course, WhatsApp and others. You can totally do this in any DM on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, right? But the problem with doing that is that a lot of times it gets lost in the shuffle and they have to kind of go back and find it. And so definitely might be something you want to do right before the stream as a reminder, like, hey, we're going live in 20 minutes. Just here's a link in case it's, convenient for you here. Now, the other way is text message. But again, the problem with text messages is that it is sometimes going to get lost in the shuffle, right? So, I get a lot of text messages and I literally sometimes will think that I have responded to a message and I get it and I'm like, oh, I guess I mentally responded and didn't respond, but it's literally like 50 messages down. The same thing can happen with this link, which is why, again, in my opinion, the best way that I like it is to send that calendar invitation and put the link in the actual calendar invitation. So I personally feel like that's one of the best ways. Now, not everybody uses a calendar, right? So you need to, again, ask your audience or ask your guest, what is the way that they want to receive it? So again, going back to asking your guest, how are you planning to join this live broadcast? And how would you like me to send you the information? And they may tell you, well, send it to me via text. But if they just said, I'm going to join via computer, say, okay, cool. Are you on a Mac by chance? Just because, you're going to have to send the link to yourself. You are in control here. You are the host. This is your show. You want to provide a good experience for your guests. So having that conversation with them ahead of time is going to help you make sure that you are also setting them up for success. Now, let's talk about setting your guest up for success, because literally the other thing that's important is getting your guest some tips. Not everybody is a live streamer, or not everybody is experienced with live guesting, and not everybody has used StreamYard before or been a guest on a show before. So it's up to you to make sure that you provide them with some best practices so that they have a good experience and so that your audience has a good experience. And so let's talk about a few of those things briefly so that we can cover those. Now, the first thing I say is this: wear some headphones. Wear headphones. You need to wear headphones and your guest needs to wear headphones. Now, I love how StreamYard has some echo cancellation technology inside of the platform, but it's not 100% foolproof and you never know what's going to happen. Definitely ask your guests to wear headphones. Now, why do they have to wear headphones? Let me take a sip. The reason they need to wear headphones is because you are introducing additional audio into your live broadcast. What do I mean by that? Anytime you're playing any sounds in a show, you want to wear headphones. You notice today I am not wearing my headphones. Well, I'm not introducing any other audio into my show. If I wanted to bring somebody on, like sometimes Christian joins me on the show here to help me kind of with stuff. If I were bringing Christian up, then I would put my headphones in because I'm going to hear Christian's audio. If I don't, I'm going to hear his audio through my speakers, which my microphone's also going to pick up. And so you want to listen to any audio that's coming in from your computer in your headphones. This applies to having a guest on your show. This also applies to playing music, streaming music, which we covered 2 weeks ago on the same show here, Ask StreamYard. And it also includes any kind of situation where you're maybe playing a video, you're maybe sharing a YouTube video and you're playing the audio from it, any of those types of things. So anytime you're going to have any other audio, you should wear headphones. 100%. If you have a guest on your show, you need to wear headphones. I have to say that because it's really, really important. So tell them to wear headphones and remind them. I can't tell you how many times a guest will show up right before and they're like, oh, my headphones are upstairs. And you're like literally about to go live and you're like, okay, well, they don't have time to go grab their headphones now. So if that's the case, turn on that echo cancellation setting inside StreamYard so that you can reduce that echo that's possible, right? Okay, so the other thing is make sure that you reiterate to them that they need to have some strong Wi-Fi. So if they're going to be, using their phone and they're on a walk, then you might want to tell them, hey, if that's the case, great, but know that we may cut out. You need to know and be ready for this because you may need to be ready to troubleshoot or have deal with some issues if they're going to be out and about. If they're not, then tell them, if possible, to hardwire into their router or just make sure that they are in a good spot in their home that's not like one of those dead spots for their Wi-Fi. So for sure, reiterate the need for strong Wi-Fi. When you're having guests, this is really critical and really important. Something I always like to tell them as well, if they're going to be joining from their phone, tell them to use a tripod. Ask them to use a tripod. If they don't have a tripod, then ask them to prop their phone up on some books or something, because it is definitely an issue when your guest is moving around and they're holding and it's just, oh my goodness, yikes. It can actually create a really jarring experience when here you are on screen, nice and still, and your guest is next to you and they're like moving around everywhere. It's also noisy. It's extra noisy when they are holding their phone. It's going to create some feedback. It may create issues. If they even have their headphones plugged in and they're using the microphone on their headphones, moving around, and anytime you're moving something, there is going to be additional audio feedback that's going to come through. So when they are not holding their phone, then you're going to have a steady view. So it's not going to be all crazy and jarring and making everybody dizzy, but it's also going to eliminate some audio issues that you may run into as well. So the other thing I would always like to recommend is doing a tech test with your guest. This is really just an opportunity not only for you to show them what it's like to be a guest inside StreamYard, but also check their audio, make sure that their microphone's going to be okay, and then have these conversations with them during the tech test. Like, oh, great. Hey, do you by chance, it's kind of dark where you are. Is there maybe a different spot where you can face a window or whatnot? Again, you want a good experience, not only for your audience, but you want your guests to look and sound their best as well. This is an opportunity for you to give them some tips. So doing a tech test is kind of a good excuse for you to actually just get a preview of what you're going to expect. It's also a good time for you to, again, if they're sharing slides or doing anything, you can basically give them a walkthrough of how to be a good guest using StreamYard. And then they're going to have those expectations that are more level set when they show up for your actual live show. So this is a perfect opportunity for you also to have a reiteration of your agenda. Now, the next tip I have here is to put your actual agenda or notes, meaning really brief notes. Like let's say you're going to ask them 5 questions. Well, put those questions in your private chat inside StreamYard. So in StreamYard, when you have a guest on your show, you have a little section where that guest can see the comments, but then there's another tab that they can click that says private chat. And I love using the private chat to put the agenda in there, put the questions in there. And also you can copy any links in there that you maybe want to share while you're streaming. Now, why do I do this? This is because sometimes we get a little off topic. Sometimes your guest might forget certain things that they were going to say or that you were going to cover as well. And when they have that little agenda there, it's just a good little safe place that you have right there on screen where you can kind of reiterate that. So I like to use it as an opportunity to get the tech test to get that information, but then put that information in the private chat of your actual stream. So definitely consider that as well. So I know that this might seem like an extra step, taking things to the next level to prepare your guests and to give them these tips. But again, I will say it. I keep saying it. I've been saying it the whole time we've been here. It's up to you to create whatever environment you can, processes and systems, so that you can have a good experience for your guest, so that you can have a good experience for your audience, right? You're in control of your audience. And so that's really important. I see a few questions. Let me take a look at a couple questions. And let me get out of this. Yeah, okay. Hold on. I'm looking at something. Okay, so question I saw, I'm just grabbing these. Lauren says, Mel, what if I'm having a celebrity, I love the quotes, guest on, and I'd like to schedule the show on my platforms prior to 1 week early? Is there a workaround for that? Thank you in advance. So Facebook is 1 week. I always get these wrong. So YouTube, you have further in advance. Here's what I say. Go ahead, schedule the broadcast as far in advance as possible on whatever platforms allow it. Keep in mind, if you're doing that on LinkedIn, you cannot make modifications. It will not make modifications on the other side. So what's really cool about StreamYard is that you can schedule a broadcast, and then you can, let's say you don't have your thumbnail done yet, you can still schedule it, and then you can go in and add the thumbnail, and it will automatically update that scheduled post that went out to your audience. It will not work on LinkedIn. There are some limitations there. Facebook will not let you schedule a broadcast within 7 days. So that's definitely what you're referring to there. I say schedule it where you can, and then maybe you create an event ahead of time that you might want to use on Facebook, and then you can put the link and you can replace that event with your actual scheduled broadcast. You also, of course, can use custom RTMP inside StreamYard to stream to a Facebook event. Personally, the Facebook events thing is always clunky for me. I try to avoid it when I can. It's not a StreamYard issue. It's a Facebook funky issue. There just always are issues with it. So I do avoid streaming into events, but that's one way you could do it as well. But other things I would say is email your list, make sure your audience knows that it's coming, let them know. And then when you are able to actually schedule it, then go ahead and let them know that it's been scheduled, send them the link so they can click on those reminders. I do like the idea of treating certain shows. You maybe want to have a little bit more, scheduling it more in advance than others. The other thing is that sometimes when you schedule it too far in advance, it gets lost. So if you are going to schedule it far in advance, do some additional social media posts to remind your audience about the upcoming show. Create some hype, right? So that they're reminded of it, and you can keep referring back to those scheduled posts where the links were. Okay, Albert says, how do you present the link? As a URL or as a hypertext with an embedded link? This is my preference. A link. It's a link. You would need to do, it's just a URL essentially. So hypertext with an embedded link. Yeah, I've never done it that way. I always just send the link. Now, if they're going to be joining from a mobile device, if they're on Android, they can just join from Chrome. But if they're on an iPhone, Safari is definitely the better application for them to open that link up in to go to. And if you send it to them and they click it, it's going to prompt them to do that. So great question, for sure. Let me make sure I don't have any other ones. So Dimebag Darren says, do you ask your guests to orient their phone a certain way, portrait or landscape? I love this question. This is such a good question. For me personally, I tell them to join landscape. And here's why. Because I want to be able to have the option of us both being landscape, because when you are both landscape in the stream, do I still have it pulled up? Let me see if I have StreamYard still pulled up on this device. I do. Okay, let me just show you what I'm talking about really fast, because, seeing is better, right? All right, let's enter the test studio. Again, I'm not going to have a camera here, but I will show you what we're looking at on this stuff, if it's going to cooperate today. It's being funky. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. So at the bottom of your studio, down here, right underneath your preview window, let me see if I can get that to be bigger. Nope. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, right down here. See these boxes? These are different layouts that you can choose. And this one is a layout when you have a guest. You're both going to be full screen in more of a portrait style mode, which is fine. However, what happens is when you have banners up or you want to display comments, it is going to cover that bottom section right below where you are. So a lot of times when I'm displaying comments or banners, I like to use this version right here. And the reason for that is that it leaves more space underneath us without cutting off the bottom of our chin or something else for comments and banners to be displayed. But if your guest is on their phone and they are portrait, they're going to be really zoomed in, or it's going to put those black bars on the side, and it's just not as good. So I do prefer that they join landscape mode so that I have the options of this particular style. The other situation is that if your guest is going to be on screen and they're sharing their screen and you want to use one of these versions, then you're going to want them to be in landscape mode for the same reason, because the box that we have designed inside StreamYard is more in that landscape style. So that is a really good question, and I'm really glad that you asked that question. So if you guys are just joining us, by the way, I wanted to just catch you guys up. This is our Ask StreamYard show, where we actually come into, it's Wednesdays at 11 a.m. right now, weekly. And essentially what we're doing is you can be featured on this show by simply asking the question in our Facebook group and use the hashtag Ask StreamYard. And we may if we decide, hey, that's a really good fit for the Ask StreamYard show, then we're going to feature you. And today what we were talking about is we're actually answering Carl's question. He posted a question about how, if you could send your guest a link through a text message if they want to participate on their phone. And so we're taking a deeper dive on that, because the quick answer to that is yes, you totally can. But we're taking a deeper dive, and we're taking this further and talking about really some great ways to prepare in advance so that you have a good positive experience for your guests and you and your audience. And so I've been going through some of those tips, and I will recap those tips here shortly. So I think I saw a couple other questions for sure. So oh no, that's just a repeat question. So, okay. Let me make sure. I think I totally saw a question. You guys are awesome. When you're all fantastic in the comments, I love it. But man, sometimes I lose my place. So pardon me while I get reacquainted with what we got going on here. So, okay, let me minimize that over there. So, should the guest use or not use their Bluetooth headsets while being a guest? Another great question. I discourage it. And there are a couple of reasons why. One, I know we spend a lot of money on these awesome Bluetooth headsets, but the audio experience is typically not very good for your guest. Meaning, a lot of times the microphones on those wireless headsets, they kind of suck. I hate to say that. But here's the problem. A lot of times they bring in tons of background noise. I know that whenever my boyfriend is going through the airport and he is on his, I literally am like, I cannot speak to you right now because I hear every person you're walking by talking. I hear the overhead speaker, like call me when you're sitting down and you don't need to, because he's walking through the airport with his stuff, right? And he's talking to me and I'm like, I cannot handle this right now. And like, it drives me crazy. Well, the same thing can happen when you're live streaming. If there's anything going on inside in the background, those wireless headsets tend to pick up a ton of background noise. And they really just honestly don't sound very good. There's very, very few that are out there on the market that are affordable, that have really good audio. So a lot of times the microphone isn't great, but your guests may prefer it. I discourage it for that reason. The other reason I discourage it is because a lot of times, even if they're using a fancy microphone, if they ever have that Bluetooth headset connected to their computer, it actually may automatically revert and actually pick up the mic. So even though they think they have this fancy mic, it automatically reverts. The other reason is that sometimes when we have any kind of wireless technology introduced into something, it can cause feedback. It can actually cause weird issues. They're waves, they're sound wave, they're, I don't know. I don't know the technical term, but the stuff, all the magical stuff that happens in Bluetooth and all those things. Well, they can create interference. And so I always like to just avoid the wireless stuff when I can, but your guests may have a strong preference for it, or maybe they're doing some sort of show where they need to be all over the place. Well, then the wireless headset may be a good fit. So again, it's all about having that conversation and preparing them ahead of time. You asking questions too, so that you know what to expect. You are the one that needs to be in charge and definitely providing a good stream for your audience by preparing that guest. Okay, let me check this out. Checking on you guys. Oh, yes. So Lauren is like, oh, I thought it was a StreamYard thing. Didn't realize it's Facebook. And I think Lauren is referring back to the scheduling. So Facebook has a limitation on when you schedule. YouTube, you can go further back. You can schedule further in advance. Every channel seems to be a little bit different. So, okay, let's check this out. This is an interesting question. So Will says, can you book your guests without using the same link? Planning to surprise my guests to who I have on the other side. So here's the thing. You actually can't. You would use the same link, Will. So that link that I pulled up, let's say you have a featured guest. Stephen Kaplan actually does this. He surprises his guests by pulling people on screen. He's a StreamYard user, one of our awesome StreamYard users. But okay, so you would send your main guest, right, the link. But any of those surprise people that you're going to pull on stream, you send them the same link. They cannot see each other backstage. But prepare your surprise people. Tell them not to type in the private chat. So your guest cannot see anybody else that's backstage with them. And so make sure that you would use the same link, but you don't have to worry about any of those issues. So now, if you wanted to have everybody be surprised each other, then that might be a little bit tricky, because once somebody's on stream, then anybody backstage, they can see who's up in the show. So, but you would use the same link, and there isn't a way around that. So, unfortunately. Looking at questions. Oh, see, I scrolled and I lost my place. Let's see. You guys, if you want to, for any feature requests, by the way, feel free to send those on. You can send them over to contact@streamyard.com. Send those over, any kind of feature requests that you guys have. The StreamYard team is really, they get feature requests all the time, and they're really good about gathering those. Either if it's the same feature request that gets asked over and over and over again, then they kind of put it in the queue of it keeps getting voted. Some things they may never pull in because it doesn't fit the pillars, which are like ease of use, keeping it simple. But at the same time, they love feedback. So definitely feel free to send those feature requests over to contact@StreamYard for sure. So, okay, let me check these things out. If you're just joining us, this is our Ask StreamYard show where we are answering the question about how to send, if you can send a guest a link in a text message. We're taking it a bit further because the answer is yes, but we're talking about best ways to have a guest experience. So you guys are all over it. Yeah. So Aria says, I wouldn't recommend using Bluetooth headsets because of possible interference. It could go low battery. Exactly. Another one, the battery, totally didn't even say that one. 100% the battery could definitely, Yolanda's reiterating, definitely creates interference. So yeah, we want to make sure that we avoid that if we can, right? Okay, let me see. Yeah, I'm catching up on your comments. My wavelength sound. That's my Bluetooth wavelength sound. How about that? We need to come up with an interference sound, don't we? That's for sure. Okay, let me make sure. Let me pull up some notes here. I'm thinking maybe that we might have to do a giveaway on today's show too, by the way. So if you're thinking about that, I would love for you to kind of be ready, get ready for it, right? Okay, so one of the other things that I think is important, we talked about backstage and on stage. Let me explain this really briefly, because I think it's important that you do explain to your guest what you mean by backstage. And so backstage is when they are down here, right? They are not added to the stream just yet. And so when they're backstage, their mic is muted. You can't hear them. If you're in the stream, they can hear you. But you've got to make sure that they understand what it means to be backstage and what it means to be in the stream. Now, I love that StreamYard has really good prompts that will tell them, hey, your audio is off because you're backstage. Or when you get added to the stream, their mic is hot. So if you're going through different versions of your show, like for example, you want to go full screen, you need to make sure your guest knows the audience can still hear them. This is something I see often where I can tell that maybe somebody skipped that step of prepping their guest and explaining what it means to be backstage versus in stream. And so make sure that you let them know, hey, your mic is totally muted when you are backstage, meaning the audience won't hear you and I can't hear you either. So if you need to communicate with me while you're backstage, use the private chat feature, which is out here to the right. So the other thing to tell them is that if they're in the stream, just because they aren't seen on screen does not mean that their mic is muted. So I see this where people will have a guest in their stream, but then they go full screen to them, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you hear their guests like coughing and going, and like they have no idea that they can still be heard. And so make sure you explain a little bit of the mechanics of how StreamYard works. Again, you can do this in that preparation video that I talked about earlier, or you can do it during your tech test meeting where you use that as an opportunity to do a little bit of training, right? So definitely want to make sure that you guys know about that. So, all right. So if you're just joining us, we are we're talking about having guests in a show. So I'm going to do a recap, and then we are definitely going to do a giveaway today. I don't even know if I'm allowed to, but you know what? I don't know. They'll forgive me, won't they? Won't StreamYard, they'll forgive me. So we are featuring the question that Carl posted about the guests. And if you want to have your question featured, then all you have to do is make sure you join our Facebook group and ask the question, but use the hashtag Ask StreamYard. And definitely, you could do this on Twitter if you want to as well. I suppose that they're pulling those from Twitter as well. But definitely make sure that you're in our group. We want you in our Facebook group because that is where we are supporting each other, nurturing each other, and we love your questions to get asked in there, as well as your feature requests. So, but today's question is all about having a guest experience on the show. So that's what we're doing. And I will do a recap here shortly. Let me get my fun tool ready to go, right? Have you guys tried the giveaway tool yet? It is so awesome. I love it. Okay, so we're going to do Love StreamYard. Not yet. Don't get cheeky on me. Okay, so here's the deal. We will be doing a giveaway. So we're going to give away puddles, right? But first, let's do a recap. I think we should do a recap for anybody that's joining us. I want to go through what we talked about in today's show, which again was like a little miniature training. And so here's the deal. So what we have is love the giveaway tool. Yes, I have used this tool and it's James Potts. Love it. Yes, it's awesome. The giveaway tool. You guys are loving it. I seriously, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that they gave it to us. I thought we were going to have to pay for it, or it was only going to be like a pro feature or something crazy like that. But no, Dan and Gage are awesome and they gave it to us, and the Hoppin' team, they're just all fantastic. So here's the deal. The short answer to Carl's question was yes, you can text your guest a link to the stream. I always say, find out where they're going to be joining so that you can give them a good experience. So let's do a recap, shall we? We're going to do that. All right, let's jump in here. So here was the first thing I said. When you're going to have a guest on your show, I want you to consider using a scheduling app to book your guests. Now, the one that I personally use is Calendly. Harmonizely is one. I hope I said that correctly. And then, of course, Acuity scheduling is a really popular one out there as well. Calendly has a free feature. I love it. It's fantastic. So this allows you to create a form ahead of time. They can fill out some information, which lets you do the next tip, which is gather that information ahead of time. Find out, what is your bio? What are you going to talk about? What are the questions you're going to, what are the bullets that you're going to be covering? Let them know what questions you're going to be asking, maybe even gather the answers to those questions ahead of time. Preparing is definitely key. And that goes into the third tip here is prep your guests with those expectations. Go through those best practices, right? Let them know what your show is about. What about your audience? You are responsible for your audience. You are responsible for ensuring that your guest knows about your audience so that they can deliver the content that's appropriate for whatever level they're in or whatever their goals are or why they're tuning into the show. So that's up to you to make sure that your guest understands that. And the idea that I gave you guys was to basically, go live with or tell them, give them a video, like record a video and say, hey, and make this video generic so that it's for any guest. And then you're not having that conversation over and over again. Record yourself on video, describing your audience, what your show's about, why you love having guests on your show, and then maybe even give them some tips in there during that video. Let them know you're using StreamYard, let them know what to expect, maybe do a demo. And this is actually just going to let that be a scalable conversation. So then you're just like, hey, if you don't mind, here's a 8-minute video that I recorded for you. Please watch it. And then when we do our tech test, you can ask me any questions that you have. So again, giving them that expectation, do it in a video format so that they can know your audience. That's your responsibility, right? It's your responsibility. All right. So a couple of other things, send that link in advance. Now, if you're using the scheduling app, like I talked about, then you're going to be able to update the calendar invitation that they got with the StreamYard link that you get from inside the StreamYard platform. So schedule that live stream if it's to the point where you're ready to schedule it. If not, just simply create a broadcast and don't schedule it yet. You will actually still get a link that you can then go back and update that broadcast in StreamYard with the date and time and a thumbnail. And at that point, it'll publish to your social media channels as, hey, so-and-so plans to go live. But you can actually get the link earlier than that if you want to. So get that link and send it to them in advance. Now, you can definitely send it to them via text message, via email, Facebook Messenger app. But I like the idea of you actually putting it in the calendar invite as well, because they will have it right there, ready to go, right in their calendar, right before you're ready to go live. So that's definitely a best practice. The other thing that I said was to do a tech test and conduct a pre-stream meeting. So during that tech test, you're going to have an opportunity to get a preview of what their stream is going to look like. You can maybe give them some tips on lighting, audio, and other things to ensure that you're going to have a really good show and that they look and sound their best. And then give them some best practice tips, right? We talked about the need for headphones. We talked about using a tripod or stabilizing their camera so that they're not holding it. Little things like that. This is a great time during that tech test to actually go ahead and give them some best practice tips for sure. Because again, as I said, the show is your responsibility. It's up to you to make sure that you have a good show and best practices for the best result, for sure. All right, here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to do our giveaway. So I'm going to add this up. I'm going to start collecting right now. So love StreamYard is what you guys want to be typing in here. Get that in there. Get them in the comments. Make sure there's no, space or anything like that. Let me go back. It's not working. Hold on. It's not gathering anything yet. I hope I didn't break it. Ask StreamYard. That's the one we're doing. I'm going to collect comments now. I don't know why there's no entries. Hopefully it will work today. There it goes. It's starting to collect entries. Okay. It's collecting. I think that I have to do it and then you have to type the hashtag. So if you already typed it, type it again. Type it. Type in the hashtag if you did it before, because now it's collecting entries. I'm still a newbie at using this awesome tool myself. So it's collecting entries as we go. So type those in there in the comments. And you guys, I want to remind you that next week we will be live again. Same time, same place, 11 a.m. My friend Kevin is going to be doing the show next week. And then, of course, I'll be back the week after that. I think we're kind of on an alternating schedule, which is super fun. So hopefully you guys tune in. Make sure that you are subscribed to StreamYard. You have not liked anymore. It's not liking, it's following, I think now. You are following the Facebook business page. You're in our Facebook community. You are following us and subscribed, and you're ready to get notifications over on YouTube. Because you guys, not only is this show awesome that we're doing, there are so many other shows, and there are tutorials that are getting uploaded into the YouTube channel as well. So make sure that you are joined over there, you're subscribed and all that stuff. So, okay, let's do this. Are you guys ready? I think you guys are ready. Let's make it happen. Oh, I see a couple more coming in. I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds, and then we are going to make this happen. Okay, so yes, 11 Eastern. Thank you, Christian. 11 a.m. Eastern time is when we are doing our Ask StreamYard show. So that is when this is all going down. You, LVAD talk, I got you. You're in here. Let's draw. All right, here we go. Who's it going to be? I always have to be patient because I always think it's going to stop on somebody, and then it always goes one more. Hey, Aussie K-Pop Mom TV, you are the winner. Woo! All right, all you have to do is you're going to email contact@streamyard.com to claim your prize. Make sure that you reference that you were the winner on the Ask StreamYard show for today. Send an email over and you will get the awesome puddles. We love our puddles for sure. So yes, awesome. Congratulations for sure. So super, super fun. All right. As I said, you guys, make sure that you are subscribed so that you do not miss us next week. I definitely want to see you guys back. And if you have a question and you want to be potentially featured on our Ask StreamYard show, then make sure that you are in our group, join the Facebook group, post a question and use the hashtag Ask StreamYard. And we just might feature you on the show, send you a free t-shirt, some free swag. I don't know. Maybe one of these cool mugs you can put some tea in when your allergies are tickling your throat the whole time you're trying to stream. Thank you for bearing with me through all of that. That was a little bit of a struggle, but I appreciate you guys for being here today for sure. Definitely tune in next week for our Ask StreamYard show, and Kevin's going to come on and talk to you guys about, I forget what he's talking about next week. I should look that up. I'll try to do that next time, right? All right, you guys, I'll see you next time. See you later.